Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm James,
We're the Sega guys.
and this is the Sega Lounge.
Welcome to the Sega Lounge, a podcast dedicated to our love for all things Sega, be it the games, the music, or the community. I'm KC. In each episode, I'll be talking to different guests and sharing their projects and their passion for Sega. Hello, all you beautiful people. I hope you're all doing well and ready for a brand new episode of the Sega Lounge. It's a very special one, I can assure you, because I had a blast recording this interview, and I'm sure you love my guests and their podcast. Yes, we're talking about a podcast in a podcast. Podcastception. Why? Well, September 30th is International Podcast Day, and I thought it would be a nice thing to take this opportunity to celebrate other Sega or Sega adjacent podcasts. The original plan was to have a month-long celebration, but adjustments had to be made due to scheduling conflicts. Nevertheless, it's a pleasure to talk about this week's guests, a pair of amazing Sega fans who host a fantastic podcast you should definitely listen to. This week's guests are James and Dan, aka the Sega Guys, a couple of veteran Sega fans who host the SEGAGUYS RetroPod. I had a great time recording this interview and learning about the guys' love for Sega and how they got together to start the podcast. I also learned a lot about how playing Sega Rally can be a meditative experience of sorts. Yes. Want to know more about this awesome Sega podcast? Stick around until the end. Oh, and Andrew Dickinson of Dreamcast Years, stop complaining about my challenge to other potential guests. Thank you. Hello, James and Dan. Welcome to the Sega Lounge.
Hello, it's lovely to be here.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Lovely to have you on. It's great to have you because we are kind of celebrating International Podcast Day, but we're doing it in a Sega way. So I'm really happy to have you here to talk about the SEGAGUYS RetroPod. Ooh, but before we get into that, let's talk about yourselves as Sega fans. So let's talk about your history with Sega, with video games in general. So who wants to go first? How did you start playing video games and when? And what's the deal with that?
I don't mind going first. I mean, when did I start playing video games? I'll tell you what, I can't remember. I've been playing them as long as I can remember. One of my earliest memories is just wanting. I'd call it a computer. In Britain it wasn't video games, and it was computer games, because obviously the Commodore 64 and the Spectrum, and they were in vogue at the time. And I finally got one for my 6th birthday, which was a Commodore 64. And it was my favourite thing in the world ever, until one day in 1991, my younger brother, he wanted his own computer game, quotes, and I'd seen Altered Beast at a friend's house on the Mega Drive. Then his brother had an import Mega Drive, and my mum was going through one of the catalogues and saying, "Oh, which one should I get him?" So I was like, "Oh, the Sega." She actually ended up getting him a Master System too. But funny enough, his birthday was August 1991. So with this pile of games that he got, a lot of the Master System games at that time were cheap. Was a game called Sonic the Hedgehog, and that began my love affair with all things Sega at that point. I was absolutely obsessed with it. I It was the very first game that I'd played from start to finish. I mean, I had my Commodore 64, but I couldn't get into the end of the NE games. Sonic the Hedgehog was the first game I was dedicated enough to sit through it until the very end. And from there on, it was just Sega. We got Sonic 2 on the Master System the next year. And then I had to beg and plead my mum and dad to get my brother and sister and I a Mega Drive for Christmas 1992. Obviously, that came with Sonic 2, which to this day it's my favourite game of all time. And that kept us going for 4 years. As much as I wanted a Mega CD and a 32X, could never afford them. But it wasn't.
Ah, familiar story.
Yeah. But I started saving up for a Sega Saturn at the end of 1995. I had a paper round at the time, and for a few months of paper round money, and then I had my birthday towards the end of the year in November 1996. I finally got the console, Sega Saturn. That was the first console that I could call my own. I didn't have to share it with anyone, and I bought it with my own money. So I mean, that's early gaming for me. I was absolutely in love with Sega. I was gutted when Sega discontinued the Saturn. Of course, I jumped straight onto the Dreamcast. I had to import it because I couldn't wait. And then they broke my heart again when that was discontinued. So that, in a nutshell, is a brief history of how I got into games and why I love Sega.
Excellent. So your favorite game, Sonic 2?
Sonic 2. It's not even close. I think it's nigh on perfect. It does everything it sets out to do. No one can tell me otherwise.
Yes. I agree. Okay, great. Thank you, Dan. What about you, James? Would you like to share your tale of joy in horror?
Well,
I'm sure.
my video game, or as Dan says, computer game history, started when I was about 10 years old. I was given a ZX Spectrum 128K plus 2. The first game I ever played was the home conversion with a light gun of the game Bullseye, which was based on the dodgy Sunday afternoon British television game show about darts. You basically played darts with a light gun. It was such a bad game, honestly. But as the kind of weeks and months went on, Spectrum games were quite cheap at that time. I used to get £2 a week pocket money, and I would go down to the local independents. It was called the Micro Shop. Would pick up kind of just basic kind of Spectrum games, your Dizzy games, bargain basement games. Remember, I got 1942 for £2. I was buzzed when I got that. And from there, obviously, that would have been 89. So the Mega Drive kind of came to prominence in the early 90s in the UK, and it was very much everywhere in the UK. You had Games Master started, you had your challenges on there with Sonic, and collect as many rings as you can in X amount of time and get through the zones as quick as you can. And the adverts were all over the TV, and Sonic seemed to be absolutely everywhere. And my mum in the classifieds had sold my Spectrum, and I must have had about 200 plus games that I must have amassed easily. Used to have big leather. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember these. You're old enough, Dan. You might remember these. It's the big. They were like briefcases, but they had inserts in them to hold tapes.
Yeah, I remember those,
Yep,
mate.
I used to. I'd umpteen of them full of tapes, and my mum sold them in the classifieds and got enough money to buy the Mega Drive, and I wanted a Mega Drive so bad. And at the 11th hour, as they say, basically another relative intervened, persuaded said mother to buy me an educational computer with the means to play games as a side kind of aspect,
Oh my.
and I ended up with an Atari ST. Fast forward 12 months, it was changed to an Amiga. My uncle, he upgraded, sorry, his A500 to a 500 plus, and I got the 500. Um, and I had that for the best part of 4 years. And I didn't play my first Sega console, which was the Saturn. Um, and if people listen to our pod will have heard this, they must be sick of hearing this story, man, honestly. But my uncle used to take me to the city centre every Saturday, and there was an arcade called Booth's Enterprises in the city centre, and it's still there now, but it's all slot machines and kind of fruit machines and things like that. So there's no arcade games anymore. But back then in the mid 90s, they had a basement level which was just full of games. It was all Sega games, and that's where I first played Virtua Fighter, and that's where the kind of bug bit. And I remember the weekend of July 8th, 1995. I used to go up to my uncle's every weekend, and I went up one Saturday, um, and he blocked me off at the top of the stairs before his home cinema room, and he's just standing there smirking. So bear in mind that for weeks before this, months before this, I've been playing Virtua Fighter with his money, may I add, spending his money playing Virtua Fighter in the arcade, struggling to get past Jackie and barely making it past Jeffrey twice, right? Because I was so bad at it in the arcade. Um, and as I say, he blocks me off, and I could hear this crescendo of noise, and it was, the start button jingle, the character select music, which never resonated because I think in the arcades you couldn't really make it out as clearly because of
Yeah.
the kind of atmosphere and whatnot, and the kind of ambient noise. Um, and all I heard was basically the fight one, ready, go, and I just lost my marbles, man. I was going to say shit, but absolutely lost it, man. Because basically, I was like, he's got Virtua Fighter in there. Now, knowing Monklers I did at the time, I expected to open the door and see an arcade machine because the guy just bought everything tech wise back in the 90s. His room was like Aladdin's cave for tech. But it was a Sega Saturn, and I'd never heard of one. I never, because I was still playing, the Amiga. I was very much in that kind of world, and Saturn was totally new to me. I never knew it existed until that day when he opened that door. Um, and from then on, it was like, oh my god, the arcade has come home. I could not believe what I was seeing compared to the kind of games that I was playing on the Amiga. Games like Body Blows, a really bad port of Street Fighter 2. It was on 4 floppy disks. It was just so bad and so slow. And then obviously the kind of that that would grow, and I would get my own Saturn in Christmas of '96. And then I would go on to import the Dreamcast as well early in '99. And then the import bug that bit with the Dreamcast caused me to go back and add to my PAL Saturn collection, and I would get Japanese Saturn stuff as well. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, the collection that I amassed was sold in 2008 when I got a home with my then girlfriend, now wife. So the funny story being that very Sega Saturn that my uncle opened the door and let me see that day, I got it back because it was in his loft, and I've got it back this year. It was dirty and needed restored, but it's back under my television, fully modded, and future proofed. So um, it's quite a kind of a heartwarming story that machine has somehow managed to find its way back to me. So
Yeah, definitely.
My own Saturn that I got in Christmas '96, that's long gone. But for me, my first Saturn was that one because I only ever played it, every weekend for a year whenever I was going up to visit. He didn't play games, so basically, it was sitting there, redundant during the week. So yes, it found its way back to me, and then of course I've picked up a Dreamcast, and I'm kind of back on that as well. So the brothers are reunited, and back with a vengeance. So in a nutshell, that's my kind of Sega and gaming history.
See, there was horror, there was joy, there was hope. That's a great tale. Thank you for sharing. So, favorite game, James?
Oh, Dan knows where I'm going with this straight away. Sega Rally Championship.
Okay.
Um,
I knew that as well, but I wanted to ask anyway.
if you've listened to our pod as well, which obviously you have done, you'll know that. I just think it's there's never been, I don't think before or since, for me there's never been a driving game where the connection between the track, the car, and the controller feels so complete. Whether it's the PAL or the NTSC version, the PAL optimization on the Saturn version for overheat is sensational. Great job by Sega on that one. But if you make a mistake, if you don't get that corner cut in time, or if whatever reason you make a mistake, you don't take that hairpin properly, it's on you. There's no, oh, that was the controller's fault, or that's a bug in the game. It is the quintessential home arcade racing game. And yeah, if you kind of look at it today, it looks kind of blocky and pixely, but my god, the handling and the music, the score on the Saturn is 10 times better than the arcade one. So yep, Sega Rally for me is the perfect home racer that has yet to be beaten in terms of sheer feel and control and connection with the car.
Enough said. I don't know what to add after that. That's high praise. That's high praise.
Play
Great,
Sega
great.
Rally, guys. Play.
Yes, yes. I'm sold. Yeah. Awesome. Great, great, great. So let's talk about how you guys got together to create this podcast. Did you know each other before the podcast?
Nope.
No,
Nope.
followed
Okay.
each other on Twitter,
Yep.
a few exchanges, because obviously we both had shared a common interest, which, obviously games, but predominantly Sega games. So I'd see I remember some of James's posts. I'm sure he remembers some of it. So, we had, positive things to say to one another, but it was kind of it was on a question as what's your favorite Sega console, obviously. That I said that mine was the Sega Saturn. I'd seen James before saying that he had his favorite was Sega Rally, and that's when James said, So yours is my words were that the Saturn was where Sega were the most inventive, where they just kind of threw caution to the wind, and was just, I mean, to me, it's just where they were just so Sega, with all the
Yeah.
benefits and the negatives that that entails. And James disagreed, didn't you, mate?
Yeah, well, I remember that post very clearly because I don't know if it was a piece you'd written for. Was it Game Chipper you'd written it for? I think it was, or one of your kind of your sites that you write for, and you had said, that the Saturn was Sega at their most inventive, and I just remember kind of cheekily replying, "Well, that would make a great comparison piece," because I knew
Yeah,
you wrote. Um, and I'd be kind of toying with the idea of starting a blog up as well, about kind of Sega games, and kind of a DMJ and just kind of reiterated that point. And the initial idea wasn't so much as a podcast; it was a website. It was meant to just be like a blog site. Um, and we just agreed. We just said, you know what, I think this would make a far better podcast format. And to be fair, I mean, the kind of the camaraderie and the kind of relationship that we've got, you would think that we've been kind of talking to each other for years. I mean, I've recorded a fair amount of podcasts in the past, and I've never had a kind of a rapport with a co-host as quickly as I have with Dan, and it's really good. I mean, the listeners have bought into it. We were kind of out there trying to find their feet, find their audience, and I think a key part of what I think anyway, what brings people back is that kind of banter and that kind of the way that we kind of bounce off each other. It's a total fluke that it's worked the way it has. There's no guarantee you can throw two people together and they can talk about, even if you've got a shared interest. Sometimes you can have a lot of maybe clashes of opinion and things, but I mean, maybe some folk might think that's a bit boring listening. They've agreed with each other again. It's like. But in the main, every time me and Dan talk, it's like I'll say something, he'll go, "I totally agree, mate," and then he'll say something, I'm like, "Oh, bang on, mate." It's like we just have a very similar outlook. Despite the fact that Dan came to Sega as a gamer far earlier than me, we have very similar kind of outlooks on the company and the same kind of appreciations. We've shed the same tears, Dan. I think is
we have indeed.
we
Yes,
have, mate.
But this whole thing started because you disagreed on something.
it did. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the irony, isn't it? I've just prattled on about how much we agree, and the irony is it was actually a disagreement.
I think, yeah. So there was. I think there's only two disagreements. There's that one, and there was the recent Mega Drive episodes where I said I was talking about Sonic 2, obviously, and I said people say
Oh yeah.
the perfect
Mhm.
game doesn't exist, and James chimed in and went,
Yes.
"Yes, it does. It's Sega Rally."
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, good. And so you guys got together to record this. Why a podcast? Why did you think this would be a good concept for a podcast? Were you guys podcast listeners before, or just thought that this would be a good format for what you had to say?
So, I mean, James had done podcasts before. It was the first time I'd ever done anything like it. I do listen to a lot of podcasts.
Hmm.
Because I listen to sort of Arcade Attack and the Retro Gaming Discussion Group and countless others. I listen to quite a few. And in the back of my mind, I thought, I wouldn't mind doing something like this one day. But when we were having the initial conversations, as James was saying, it was a blog post. It was, we were going to present our arguments in written form, and we was exchanging a ton of DMs at the time. And the DMs didn't stop. And do you know what? James said, do you know what? This would actually probably work better as a podcast. I've done podcasts, and I think it will work a lot better. We could do the written piece to accompany it, but we'll give it a go. And I was like, oh yeah, it sounds like a great idea, but I'm nervous because I've never done one before. And he's like, it's easy. It's just like picking up the phone and go. It's like talking as if you were down the pub. And with him and I, it pretty much is. That's how it feels sometimes. Yeah. I mean, that you get all sorts of podcasts. I think a lot of the ones that I listen to are quite similar to us, in that they're just a few guys that just connect really well and just play off each other and have a good bit of banter going. So yeah, it was James who suggested the podcast out of the back of the initial exchanges that we had. We decided to do it as a 2-part one. So with the first part, we showcased. I presented my argument for the Sega Saturn, and then James did his for the Dreamcast.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with James. Sorry, Dan.
I'm not sure James agrees with you now, though.
I've actually no, because I adore the Dreamcast, right? But I think because it was the last Sega system that I played and the last one that I bought, and the one that I kind of played the most towards the end, and even whenever I eventually did get a PS2, I'm so sorry. That I still had that Japanese Dreamcast there, but when I got that Saturn back, from Uncle, and obviously restored it, and I've put an ODE in there, a Fenrir ODE in there, and just loaded up a 64 gig SD card full of just every game that I had, every game that I wanted but couldn't get because I was also too young at the time, and parents couldn't obviously buy me all the games. And I think, for two machines from the one company, they have two distinct feels that are very similar but yet totally different. And it sounds like a total oxymoron to say something like that, but they're both perfectly Sega systems. They feel like Sega systems, but the Saturn feels like Sega at its mad, mental, wacky, we'll do what the hell we want best. And the Dreamcast very much feels like we've learned from those mistakes. This is what we're giving you now. We're taking a new direction. We're trying to be more mainstream. We're trying to be more, God forbid, PlayStation about things. So it was they were trying to do their own take on being a more mainstream lifestyle console. So they were both very Sega, but one is a little kind of more traditional Sega, and the magic that you get whenever you're playing the Sega Saturn, I think it just eclipses the Dreamcast. So yes, it took me being reunited with the Sega Saturn for me to see the error of my ways, and I'm sure Dan feels very, very smug about that. So we'll just move on.
I'm not one to say I told you so, but
Disagreement number 3.
By the end of this show, the podcast will be no more.
Sega Guys is cancelled. That's
it. Cancelled.
Cancelled.
Friendship over. Podcast cancelled. All recordings will be destroyed. I have to say, you have a good point there. I have a problem with the Saturn, which is I never owned a Saturn. I actually skipped that generation of consoles, as I've told many times on the show. And so I've played a few Saturn games, but not that many to actually know that or say that I have a well-formed opinion on the matter. I just look at the Dreamcast catalog, and that one I played a lot of, and feel like there were some crazy experimental ideas. But yeah, I really need to focus on upping my Saturn game as well.
Absolutely.
In the future.
It's just a shame that the thing's so damn expensive to buy for now.
Yes.
Yeah, as James has done, there's solutions with ODEs and stuff. If you can get a cheap broken console with a dead disk drive and stick a Fenrir in there, then you're laughing really. But it's just such a special console, and there's so many bonkers titles on there. I mean, stuff like Jet Set Radio and things like that and Res on the Dreamcast are fantastic. But I think for all those experiences, you'll get dozens more on the Saturn, and so many of them are just absolutely bonkers. But I think it's also from a from a personal perspective, it was my first console, so maybe I am a little bit biased. And there was also the fact that there was so few Saturn owners at the time, and everyone else had a PlayStation, so it felt like
Yeah.
Yep.
it felt like everyone was telling you to distance yourself from this machine. You felt like you were the last sort of vanguard, the last foray clutching to this machine.
Yeah.
That is a fair point. No, that is something as well that again, whenever we got together and started talking, is that we couldn't believe the kind of the similarity in the experiences as well, because like the retail bias was another thing. You know, you always felt whenever you went into a store, whenever you were in your teens and you seen anyone talking about a Saturn or a PlayStation, that the store seemed to be persuading the customer to go for the PlayStation. We were convinced there's a conspiracy where Sony were paying retailers to tell people not to buy a Saturn, and everybody at school seemed to have a PlayStation, and they would rub it in that Tekken was better than Virtua Fighter, and Ridge Racer was better than Sega Rally, and of course that's a lot of rubbish.
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, in Portugal, the Saturn was very, very popular. Even in TV shows and stuff, Sega would sponsored shows, give away consoles and games. There was you had Games Master. We had something called Cybermaster, I believe, which was a kind of a different take on that. Much more like cyberpunk, if you will, and that was all about Saturn games. So it was big here, bigger, probably at least at to some extent bigger than PlayStation in the first few years.
Wow.
So yeah, kind of different. But yeah, I understand. I understand the appeal of the Saturn, and I really need to fix the error of my ways soon. Soon. Okay, so for people listening to us right now and wondering what the hell is your podcast about, how would you describe it to a newcomer, to someone who was what Sega Guys RetroPod? What is that about? How would you sell it to listeners of the Sega Lounge?
Right. Uh,
I'll start. It's much better than this one. You can keep going now.
um, will I take this one, Dan, or do you?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say.
Are you allowed to swear?
Feel free to.
It's basically two grumpy old Sega bastards sitting down, reminiscing about the glory years whenever Sega innovated the hardware and software space. Just two pals sitting there talking about the games that they loved, about the systems that they loved from the company that makes games that they loved. Um, and it's just great banter. It's just basically two pals down the pub talking about Sega. We we have laughs, we go off on mad tangents. I mean, I kind of compared myself to Billy Connolly in the last episode, because literally that's what he does. He'll start a joke, he'll tell four stories, then come back to the point. By which point you forgot what the actual story was about in the first place. But that's the, you know, that's just part of it. We go off on these tangents, we bring our experiences in, and we just basically talk about Sega games that we love and that we enjoyed, and we kind of bring that nostalgia back, and we hope that maybe by sharing those memories and by sharing that kind of passion that we have, that maybe, because we're getting on. I'm 41 now. You know what I mean? So I am a proper grumpy old bastard, right? So I basically I'm getting on. So if we can somehow impart a bit of that passion, and maybe fire a bit of intrigue, and make someone go, you know what, these guys love that game so much. What makes them come back to that and keep playing that even today? There must be something about it. And if we can get maybe some younger games fans out there to maybe pick up a Dreamcast or pick up a Mega Drive or a Saturn, whatever system that we're talking about, if they can go out there and pick one up and play it and enjoy it, even half as much as we did, then we're very happy to have as Soul Calibur says, the soul still burns. So if we can keep if we can keep the Sega soul burning for a future generation, then we'll do it. But it's just about sharing that passion and that love for Sega games.
That's great. That's a good point, actually. Do you get feedback from younger listeners, perhaps? Uh, do you know if younger people are listening to the show or not?
I'm not kind of sure. I mean, obviously we talk to our followers on Twitter, and you kind of some people have got like kind of pictures of themselves in their bio, so you can kind of gauge the age of people. But other people have got like kind of like avatars
Hmm.
and things like that. So it is, and you don't want to kind of go putting a poll out, doing a survey. You know, are you 18 to 25, 20,
Yeah.
60, 40? You know, to tell us your age. But we do kind of get like DMs, especially because I've done a fair bit of mods to both my Saturn and my Dreamcast. I know I've helped Rich on Dreamcast years out with his Dreamcast mods. He's put a GDMU in there after I kind
Hmm.
of talked him through that and the process of setting that up as well. So he's now doing that for some of his friends. Like he's done it for two people now as well. So he's passing that on. So you know, at the end of the day, as great as discs are, and they're wonderful to have the original packaging and the original disc, but sadly, optical drives are not reliable. It's a moving part. It's got a finite lifespan. So we need to find ways to keep these machines going and to make sure that they do last another 20 years. I mean, I'll be drawing my pension and I'll probably still be playing Saturn games, but um, I don't know what the age demographic is that do listen to us, but we do get kind of approached for, maybe follow up advice and things like that. Where do you find this? How do you do that? So, um, yeah,
Hmm.
we do find ourselves getting approached and kind of ask for hints and tips and things like that. So, I say if it prompts a younger person, a younger gamer to maybe take their eyes off their Xbox or their PlayStation, because I've probably been doing that since God knows how long, but um, if they can take their eyes off the modern scene for a wee while and kind of give a Sega game a try and they love it, then brilliant.
Yeah, I think we've had a
Yeah.
few. We had some comments on the Mega Drive pod recently, because we recently did our latest episode was the Power Mega Drive's 30th birthday, and there was
Hmm.
at least one or two that said, "Oh, I never played a Mega Drive before, but now you've convinced me to pick up the Sega Mega Drive Mini," or you've convinced another one was, "You convinced me to get the Sega Mega Drive collection." These were people that seemingly didn't play that much Mega Drive, or hadn't had a chance to play the Mega Drive before, that had been swayed into doing it. And there seems to be a little bit of a renaissance around the Sega Saturn as well. And I'd hope that we've helped to expand that a little bit with people that do listen to the show, and galvanize them into looking into that system a little bit more. So yeah, I think that we do get some feedback, and that, as James says, we do get some questions around the topics that we cover. So it's always good to see that and have that sort of impact, however small, big or small it may be.
Hmm. That's great. That's great. I think retro games, there has been a resurgence of love for retro games as well, and even younger gamers. Maybe because it's cool. I don't know, hip. I don't know, but I think there's an interest from younger gamers in finding out the legacy of these older systems and why we old bastards like them. So,
I think
and that's
I
good.
think that's what it is. It's basically at the time we were buying these, see, we could never have foreseen, back whenever we were playing Sega Rally and Sonic 2, we could never have foreseen that gaming would go the way that it has. That it's become a
Yeah.
multi-billion dollar industry, with
Oh,
with
definitely.
budgets for games that are larger than some movies, and with plots that are more complex and more emotionally, attached in some movies. And featuring actors that are normally seen in TV and movies. So we could never have foreseen that.
Hmm.
So I think we didn't realize at the time, but we were playing history.
Oh,
And
definitely.
I
Yeah.
think maybe that's part of the appeal, that maybe why retro's kind of taken off as well, because you know the way gaming has gone, it has gone very, very Hollywood in style. It's about story driven, open world, do quests, level up, get these items to craft this weapon, etc. And I think maybe people like to go back to a simpler time and see what gaming was like whenever it was basically the home equivalent of sticking a £1 coin into a machine. If you don't make the next checkpoint, it's game over. I think
Yeah.
simpler times, but we were definitely playing history. We just didn't know it, and I think that's part of
Hmm.
the kind of the thought process is that people want to go back and see, where did this all start? What was this like before the multi-billion-dollar aspect of it? That's just my take on it, anyway.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's something to be said about the YouTubers and Twitch streamers of today as well that are popular amongst younger people, and they also play some of the retro stuff, retro games, older systems as well, and maybe that also sparks a little curiosity for younger people
Yeah,
to check that out as well.
it's crazy because you see all these speed running videos, and it's like
Oh
it's
yeah.
like there's a whole new everything seems to have its whole new thing. So you've got these speed running videos, and you've got tournaments for fighting games now, and then you've got series that have been going on for Street Fighter's been around for what, 30 years, over 30 years now, and
Hmm.
people want to see where that streak goes back to, and it's interesting because there's such an immediacy to retro games. You've got you got 10 minutes, you can just throw on, do a playthrough of Soul Calibur or Virtua Fighter or something, or see how fast you can get in Sega Rally, which James does pretty much on a daily basis.
Yeah,
it's
as he wakes up, it's his morning
I'm
ritual.
pretty sure it is.
Cup of coffee and Sega Rally.
Some people meditate. He plays Sega Rally.
I take hairpins for breakfast.
Exactly.
But it was a simpler time. It's sometimes it's just nice to be able to stick a cart or a CD in, and you don't have to download a 50 gigabyte patch, and you don't have to connect to an online service, and you don't have to sit through like 2 hours of tutorials saying if you hold the left bumper and press the X button while rotating the right stick, then you can do this. I mean, all that nonsense. I mean, you look at FIFA and how convoluted that is. I mean, the best football game of all time is still sensible soccer. So I think it's retro gaming sticks around because it's simple and because it's so different to what's popular today. And there's always going to be a market for stuff like The Last of Us and Grand Theft Auto 5. But it's nice to see that there's more and more appreciation for the older stuff and the simpler stuff. And the thing is, I love discovering new games all the time. One of the things that I've found is, I picked up a PC Engine a couple of years ago, and it's just getting into stuff that's like what you grew up with, that's similar, but again, it's similar but different. So what's old is new again. So that's why I've continued to add to my retro collection and expand it, primarily focusing on the Saturn, of course.
Of course, yeah. Great stuff. So let's take a quick break, okay? And when we come back, you know what it is. You already know. You're psychologically prepared for this moment. So I won't say it's a surprise anymore because you are familiar with what's coming up.
Dan, have you got Google ready?
I don't think Google will help you.
I don't think Google will save us.
No one can help you now. So take this quick break to breathe in, breathe out, take a sip of water or some kind of Sega juice, and we'll be right back.
Can I go and play Sega Rally in the break?
Yeah, of course. Yes, we'll wait for you. Go play Sega Rally and come back. Yes. Tired of listening to the same music on the radio over and over again? Wouldn't it be great if you could have a station that played your favorite Sega music and remixes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Luckily, there's Radio Sega, an online radio station dedicated to the best in Sega and Atlas music. And you can request your favorites at any time. Plus, Radio Sega has live shows including a first-hand preview of the Sega Lounge. You can find the full schedule of shows and listen to the station by going to radiosega.net. Radio Sega, playing the best Sega music 24/7. Welcome welcome back. We're here with James and Dan, who are just preparing themselves for our epic Sega Lounge challenge.
Now that you know our guests, it's time to put them to the test. It's the moment we've waited for, and the moment they dread.
Welcome to your doom.
I mean, welcome to the Sega Lounge Challenge.
What is the Sega Lounge challenge, James and Dan? It can be anything I want. Not only that, I'm here as well, so I'm 50% of the challenge. Because I'm here to make you doubt yourselves and your answers.
Oh, I've seen it.
So, yeah,
Those mind
I
games.
fun
heard
times.
what you did to Andrew.
Fun times.
You had him doubting the TB and Virtua Fighter 3 meant team battle.
I was going to say that was just cruel.
How did you manage to do that to somebody, man? It's the easiest question in the world. The poor guy was sweating.
He researched it and written a book about it, and you got
That was a great moment because he was like, "Oh, I know that. I wrote about it. Team battle. Final question. Oh no, maybe it's
He's
not."
worse than Chris Tarrant, this guy.
Okay, so you'll have a similar challenge to Andrew's, but it's more of a generic Sega challenge with music and questions. So just like Andrew, this you can get up to 20 points, okay, out of this challenge. Your goal is to get at least 10. And that will depend on your answers and the choices that you make. Because some of these questions are hard, some are easy. You have to choose between an easy or hard question. An easy one gets you 1 point, a hard one gets you 2 points. So choose wisely. Okay. Do you want to play this against each other or a co-op?
Oh, I'm not going against Dan, man. He'll destroy me.
Okay,
This is
flatter
what
me, mate.
it's what he wants, Dan. He wants us against each other. This is his plan the whole time.
Yeah, he's already said that the Sega Bite guys will be no more at the end of this. This is the same game.
Right, would you fancy? Do you want co-op or do you want to go head to head?
Let's go co-op.
There we go. See.
Wise decision. So, James and Dan, are you ready for the Sega Lounge challenge?
I think as ready as I can be. How about
Yep.
you, Jay?
No, you're not.
Bring it on. Let's go.
Okay, that's the spirit. That's the spirit. So first of all, number one question, Sega question. Would you like to go with an easy question for 1 point or a hard question for 2 points?
I think we should follow Andrew's approach and see just what the hell he's got in store for us.
Sure, yeah, go on then. So hard then, yeah?
Yeah, are you sure? So
Give it your
let's go with the hard one. Yes. Okay. So let's pick one of the hard questions here. What is the name of the SG-1000 game that is notable for being the first title Yuji Naka worked on?
SG-1000.
Wow. I mean, I started playing at a Saturn, mate. So
Yuji Naka, famous for the Sonic the Hedgehog character in game. His first title, SG-1000.
I think I'm going to kick myself when you tell us.
And no Googling.
No.
Or binging. Or Yahooing.
Come on now. Who do you think we are? I was looking at SG-1000 stuff recently, but I can't for the life of me remember what the games were.
Anything? Any kind of guess?
I think I just put a tweet out about the SG-1000 the other day as well, yeah. Oh, man. Yuji Naka.
It's actually his birthday today,
Happy birthday.
as we're recording
There you
this.
Oh yeah.
Did you Google that, aye?
I know that's the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 debug mode.
So
So
I need an answer, or not, or maybe no answer.
Did he do Fantasy Star?
that was Master System, but I think can't remember if I don't think Flicky. I keep thinking Flicky, but I don't think that was SG-1000 either. But I'll say Flicky. They put us out of misery.
So your answer is Flicky?
Yep.
That is a good answer. Is it correct, though? It is not. Unfortunately, no, that is wrong. That is incorrect. The correct answer is Girl's Garden.
Oh.
Girl's Garden
I
is the correct
know that.
answer.
Yep.
So, no points so far, but no worries because now the fun part begins. Number 2 is guess a game from a song. Actually, guess the game and the song if you can. If you guess the game, you get 1 point. If you guess the track, title, or stage where it plays or something, you get another point. So 2 points max. Got it?
Got it.
Let's go.
I have a 10-second long clip here. Listen carefully. And that's it.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2 final boss.
Wow.
Are you sure?
100%.
James, is he correct?
He's a Sonic 2 man. This man has completed Sonic 2 more than anybody I know in my life.
Should I play it again?
Just for Dan to enjoy it, aye.
I'll enjoy it, yeah.
I won't if you don't need it.
No, why not?
I'm just trying to be helpful.
I mean, I could listen to the Sonic 2 soundtrack all day, but it's definitely Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the final boss music, Death Egg Zone.
Your answer is correct, of course. It's so easy. Yes.
This is where you lure it
2
in.
points. 2 points.
Well played, Dan. Well played, mate.
Yes, only 8 points left. 8 points to go. Okay, let's go with question number 3, which is a Sega question again. So easy or hard, guys?
Should we go easy?
Remember, you need 10 points. You need 8 points. We have 10 like mini challenges. So we had 2, 8 left.
So we've got 2 in the bank. Should we go for an easy one?
Go for an easy one, mate. Let's go.
I think that's a correct decision. That's a wise decision. Okay. In Virtua Fighter 3B, what does the TB stand for? No. Okay. Let's go with this one. In the original Shenmue game, Nozomi helps her grandmother run what kind of shop?
It's a flower shop, is it not?
Yeah, it's definitely a flower shop.
Yep.
So your answer is flower shop?
Yep.
It is indeed.
Final answer?
Yes.
So you're saying Nozomi runs a flower shop in Shenmue.
I see.
I see. And that is correct. 1 point. Very good. Good one. Okay, not too bad. 3 points so far. Almost there. Let's go with number 4, which is another song. Another bit of a song. Looking back, my choices were not the best ones. Okay, let's take a listen.
Go on, James.
In hindsight, yeah.
Conditioned reflex desert stage Sega Rally.
That's 2 points. What can I say? Now that I think about it. Okay. Doing great. 5 points so far, which is probably a record with this kind of challenge. So let's keep going. Let's go with another question. Easy or hard? Question number 5.
What do you reckon, Joe?
I go for another easy one. Get us to 6, hopefully, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another easy
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going modern day here with this one. In Yakuza 0. Are you guys familiar with Yakuza 0?
Well, I've just started playing it.
Okay, so maybe that'll be helpful. In Yakuza 0, and remember this is an easy question, upon completing a sub-story in the challenge, you can obtain a chicken, which you can then, of course, assign as a manager in the real estate minigame. Of course. What's the name of the chicken?
I've never played Yakuza, so I'm out.
So you there's a sub-story, and then you get a chicken, and you can use the chicken as a manager in your real estate business. Because, collecting rent and stuff. Yeah.
Oh.
Scaring off thugs and that sort of thing.
God,
Because why not?
I love that game, but I've not got that far yet. I can't wait to employ this chicken.
Jesus.
Oh, I need to play it.
What's the name of the chicken?
The name
then?
of the chicken. You know, I don't know. I've not got that far. Kiryu Junior. I don't know.
It must be something. Maybe it's something that harks back to a past character.
Could be.
Could be.
Could be.
Could be.
What do you reckon then? Rio, Akira,
Amy. Don't know, Chow the chicken. Don't know. Honestly,
Yeah.
it would be a total guess at this point. Pass.
Yeah, Chow the chicken.
What's your answer? Your final answer?
Chow the chicken.
Let's lock this in. Chow the chicken is incorrect.
Shocker.
The correct answer was Nugget.
Nugget.
Oh, come on, man.
The correct answer.
It's a McDonald's meal, for Christ's sake. Oh, man.
Oh, we could have got that.
I'm loving that one, then.
Okay, so yes, I just got that one. Okay, good. 5 points so far, with still 5 sub challenges to go. Let's go with the next one, which is a song. Okay, so let's take a listen to this one. Remember, 1 point for the game, 1 point for the track or where it plays in the game. Let's take a listen.
Hey, you. Dun, 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 dun. See, Dan and I sing a lot. I believe, is that Gum's training in Jet Set Radio?
So you think this is a Jet Set Radio track?
It's definitely a Jet Set Radio track. I'm convinced that's never Gum you're training. Gum gives you your...
Yeah, it's 100%.
Yeah, she gives you the kind of...
radio.
Yeah, it's the kind of...
Why?
Because she goes, hey, you, and then does a wee dance where she sways her shoulders in front of you, and then she grinds along the wee railing, jumps on top of the car, and you need to repeat her tricks, and then she joins your gang.
So your answer is Jet Set Radio Gum's theme.
Yeah, it's Gum's training stage.
Training
I'm pretty sure
theme.
there's a wee, or Gum's challenge to join your gang.
Does it have a? Is there a full version of it that has a name? I'm trying to think. I can't remember if it plays anywhere else in the game.
The name of the
Name
track?
of
Of the song?
Yeah.
Want to hear it again?
Yeah, go on.
Maybe it'll help.
Something girl. It's definitely Gum's audition
Yeah.
or auditioning you.
Yeah, it's definitely is. Yeah, you're right. We'll go with that.
Final answer? Are you sure?
Yes, Chris.
Your answer, I will accept it and give you 2 points. So if you hear the vocals or maybe try to figure them out, she's a magical girl. Magical Girl is the name of the track by Guitar Vader. But it's actually, it plays in that part of the game and in other parts as well. But I will accept that and give you 2 points. Well done.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Thank you.
7 points so far, which is amazing. Amazing. You only need 3 points to complete this challenge. Let's go with question number 8. No, 7. Wait, 7. Easy or hard?
What do you think, Dan?
Seeing as we didn't get chicken nugget, maybe we should stick with easy.
Yeah, imagine not getting chicken nugget. Oh my god.
Chicken nugget. Okay. What is the name of the secret game built into some models of the Master System that you could access by pressing 1-2 up when the Sega logo appeared?
Alex Kidd.
Snail Maze.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Alex Kidd Snail Maze? Alex Kidd in Snail Maze?
Alex Kidd and Snail Maze, right? No, so it's definitely Snail Maze.
It's a mashup?
That was the yeah, it's a mashup. It goes down punching the snails and giant fish.
You have Alex Kidd in Shinobi World, now Alex Kidd in Snail Maze.
See, that's something that we should build a Kickstarter for.
There you go. That would get funded in record time, mate.
So, what's the answer? I'm confused now.
I think we'll go with Dan's because I've only ever heard of Alex Kidd, but obviously I've not owned a Master System. Dan has, so we will bow to his superior knowledge.
Yeah, so it's definitely, if we're talking about the hidden built-in game on the original Master System, then it's definitely Snail Maze.
Snail Maze is a nice guess, I have to say. However, nothing. It's the correct answer. Yeah. Well done. 1 point.
Well
Yes. So Alex Kidd was built into some models, but it was not a secret game. This one you had to unlock by pressing 1-2 up.
There we go.
And it would give you Snail Maze. 8 points. So close. This is a record, I have to say. At this point. This is an amazing performance. So it's time for the final song. But of course, if it's the final song, we need to enter hard mode. Still 1 point for the game, 1 point for the track. But the catch here is the song is in reverse. Mm-hmm. Can you guess it? Let's take a listen.
It's Fantasy Zone. You want to play it again?
Should I play it again?
Please.
Yeah. Let's take a listen.
It's the shop theme of Fantasy Zone.
James, do you agree?
I'll agree with this man 100%. He was on there like a shot. It was so certain. So lock that in, mate.
I knew the game. I didn't get the shop theme until second time around. I'm pretty certain it's the shop theme from Fantasy Zone.
The correct answer is this. Which means it's correct. Well done. It's the shop theme from Fantasy Zone, and actually several other Sega games as well. But this is the original one, and this is from Fantasy Zone. So 2 points. Amazing. Does that mean you get 10 points already? Oh, wow. That's the first, I think. Well done, guys. Well done. But let's see how far you can go. We have 2 more questions. So number 9, Sega question. Easy or hard?
So if we've made it already, should we go for a hard one?
Well, let's try a hard one.
Good choice. Good choice. What is the name of the alien race who are the main antagonists in the Mega Drive Echo the Dolphin games?
The Vortex. Pretty sure it's the Vortex. Yeah, because it's the Vortex Queen that you fight at the end, so it's definitely the Vortex.
Don't you fight the machine
You
at the end?
He's doing it again.
You go through the Welcome to the Machine level, which is obviously named after the Pink Floyd song, but you fight the Vortex Queen at the very end of it.
That's an interesting theory. What do you think, James?
The only Echo I've played is the one on the Dreamcast, mate. So again, if that's what Dan's going with, we've got to the 10, so we're playing for bonus points now. So I'll happily go with what Dan says.
That is correct, of course. The Vortex is the correct answer. Interestingly enough, the Dreamcast game shares little with the Mega Drive ones. So yeah, no Vortex there. Okay, that leads us to our final question, which is a hard question. No matter what you want to do, it's always a hard question for 2 points. So this is for honor right now. You already have 12 points. You can get to 14. I don't think anyone, since I started doing this particular challenge a few episodes ago, I don't think anyone got 14 points. So for honor, for the record, James and Dan, what is the name of the Japanese exclusive Dreamcast game developed by Wavemaster and published by Sega, in which you play as a god trying to influence the life of a schoolboy? Japanese exclusive Dreamcast game. You try to influence the life of a schoolboy.
Dreamcast, okay. Trying to think of
Japanese exclusives.
published by Sega.
Developed by Wavemaster.
I think who'd have made it.
There was a
Wavemaster.
radio in the game with that played music from different Sega titles.
Different thing.
Called Radio DC.
Radio. Oh, come on.
No, I haven't a clue, James, unless you remember something.
The Radio DC thing's
James.
annoying me.
Jim knows it. James knows it. He knows it.
Nah, mine's gone completely. The Radio DC thing, that's annoying me. Oh. The influence of a schoolboy. Oh, in the name of God.
You don't do much when it comes to doing things yourself. You just try to influence what the boy does. So, nothing? No clue?
The Radio
Sorry.
DC thing's triggering. There's something swirling in my head here trying to figure it out. Nah, it's nothing there.
Nope.
Sorry.
Okay. So, the correct answer would be Romania number 203. Romania number 203. Yes. And so Radio DC, there are some albums that Sega released, and you would have, like, for example, versions of the Station Square theme from Sonic Adventure that sounded like this. With like French-speaking people.
This is something on Channel 5 after Threshold.
like someone's coming in to fix the tumble dryer.
When they fix the fridge.
It gets this gets worse. It gets worse. So I highly recommend this.
Getting your fridge
Okay.
fixed to Sonic Adventure remixes. Let me to fish your fridge, mademoiselle.
Sega could have cashed in on that.
And with that, 12 points. Well done, guys. Amazing performance here. Even though we didn't get the last question, but it's hard. So yeah. Good job. You get the official Sega Lounge seal of approval,
Yes.
which I will send to you. After this is over.
Thank you very much.
But and since you've been such good sports, putting up with my challenge, how can people find your podcasts? If it's still something that exists after this recording, I don't know. After this challenge that,
I think we might just
created so many barriers in your relationship
we
now.
might just be the best tag team since the Legion of Doom, mate. Honestly, tagged in and out there majestically to get those questions. I mean, the minute I heard condition reflex, I was like, here we go. I could have got an extra point. I could have told you at what corner I'm usually at whenever that bit of the music kicks in. That's how bad it is. But anyone wants to listen to it, you can find us on Twitter. My personal Twitter is at the Segaholic. Dan's is at @Swooper_D. And the actual podcast account is at SEGAGUYS. We're on pretty much every major platform. You've got your Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We've applied to go on Amazon Podcasts. Our main kind of host site is podbean.com, so you can find us on there, segaguys.podbean.com. Or just go on your phone, Android or iOS, and search for us on your respective podcast app, and you'll find us on there. I mean, we do a lot of kind of interactive stuff with the community as well. For the Saturn episode we did, 25th anniversary, and for the Mega Drive one, we kind of got audio clips from various members of the community who follow and listen to us, and we like to do that. We like to kind of involve them and give them a little kind of platform to share their memories, and it's nice to see kind of repeat people coming on to them. We're doing a show next month for the Dreamcast's 21st UK anniversary on 14th of October. What we're doing on that is we are going to relive the launch. So we are setting our contributors the challenge. They have saved up hard £300 for the launch day. Obviously £200 of that goes on the system. So what games and peripheral combination are you taking home? £100 and a penny doesn't sound like much. So it's kind of to make people make tough choices. Do you go for a pad? Do you go for a VMU? Do you get 2 games in a VMU, 1 game in a pad? Try to kind of make people think like Dreamcast fantasy football is the kind of the way I'd pitched it. So we do like to kind of get a lot of community involvement in there. So if you are interested in 2 grumpy old Sega bastards trying to reignite your passion in all things Sega, then by all means check us out at those accounts and on those sites.
Excellent. That's a great pitch. I'm interested, so I'm going to listen to it. Definitely.
Don't forget to tell us what you spend your Dreamcast budget on.
Sorry?
You have to tell us what you'd spend your Dreamcast budget on. Your 300.
Okay, I will think about it. I have a very interesting relationship with the Dreamcast, as I've told countless times on this show, because it was the first console that I bought with my own money. So it has a very special place in my heart. So Sonic Adventure will have to be there.
That's
for sure.
£40 down. Boom. There you go.
So I'll have to think about the rest, and we'll let you know. Nothing but launch titles, though.
That's
right.
Yeah.
You're reliving the launch.
Okay.
So basically,
I'll think about it
from the launch titles.
Because I had to save for my Dreamcast, so I didn't get it at launch. I got it a few months later, like 6 months maybe. But I bought Sonic Adventure almost at launch, which was a really, really bad decision because I had it on my desk for 6 months, taunting me,
Well,
torturing me every single day. and then when I finally got the console, yeah, that was very, very special moment.
Well, I can give you.
So wait, you have to have money for the VMU as well.
That's right. Yeah.
You've got
So
£100
that's
in your
another.
money, you've got to basically to try and fit that in there.
Yeah. So console, VMU, perhaps, and games or other
Yeah.
peripherals. At least one
Yep.
game. Yeah.
We had one good
So,
answer
okay.
that said they'd get an extra pad and a pizza for a good night of multiplayer, which I thought was
That was
was
brilliant.
good.
That was Scott, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
But see, before we wrap up, we're talking about Dreamcast, right? I'll give you a funny story about me personally with Dreamcast that you can maybe your listeners can be amused at, and I think Dan might know where I'm going with this because it involves Sega Rally 2.
Yeah. Okay.
So because I'd had my Dreamcast for quite a while before it came out in the UK, Sega Rally 2 was one of my favourite games. I had the Japanese version, so had become quite good at it, and was quite proud of how good I was at it. And there's a high street chain store in the UK called HMV, and basically sells like games and records and things like that, CDs, DVDs, stuff like that. And they were hosting a nationwide Dreamcast challenge about a month before the system came out in the UK. So you basically went in, you signed up, and they had those beautiful blue and white Dreamcast demo pods that we've all seen people kind of buying on eBay and things like that. Brilliant looking things. And the game was Sega Rally 2 Fastest Lap. So it was like regional heats where basically you would, the fastest people from each store would then go on and meet in a big grand final and have a playoff and whatnot. So I stalked into the shop, right? Oh my god, I was like 19, 20 at the time, so cocky, right? Swaggers in with my best mate Sam, and he's like, "I go sign up." So here's me, Swaggers up, and there was a cable gaming TV channel, and I can't remember, it was like Gamer TV or something. It was like a kind of late 90s cable TV games program, and they were filming it. And if this footage is ever appears on YouTube, man, I'm just getting into a hole somewhere, because I goes up and I signs up, and the guy's got the clipboard, he takes your name and all that kind of stuff when you get your slot. So I swaggers up and I'm going, yeah, I'm going to boss this, man. I've been playing this game for 6 months, man. I'm going to absolutely destroy this competition. There's no 60 hertz mode on the PAL version of Sega Rally 2. So my timing was out. So basically, it's 17.5% slower, and my timing on every corner, right? So I've basically went up and been interviewed on a camera with a microphone. How do you think your chances are? I'm going to boss this, mate. I've had this game for 6 months. I'm a whiz at this. And the footage, if it ever comes out, all you see is my co-driver. Whoa, oh, boof! It's like I must have hit every corner, mate. I've hit every single corner. I've had probably the worst lap time on the day. You've never seen somebody leave a shot with his tail between his legs. So I think that was the day that I learned humility, because I walked in there so cocky and I walked out absolutely shamed. And I've never lived it down. Sam still reminds me of it to this day, much to his enjoyment. So yes, Sega Rally 2 is responsible for quite possibly my biggest gaming embarrassment.
So that's why video games are important. They teach you lessons.
Yeah,
like
you
that.
learn humility by
Yes.
not being able to take
Exactly.
corners properly in a rally car. Goddamn 60 hertz mode.
I forgot about the imported Dreamcast.
Ah, there you go. Life
Oh
lesson.
my god. Okay. Yeah, life lessons. Yes. Hashtag Sega life lessons. Right here on the Sega Lounge. So, guys, I have one more question for you, which is the last one. I always ask this to my guests. You're familiar with the concept of blast processing, right?
Yep.
That the Genesis supposedly had in the US, according to marketing gurus there.
Indeed.
So if you could add blast processing to anything in the world, what would it be and why?
On you go, Dan. I've talked for long enough, mate. You can go first. I've got an idea what I want to say, but you might have the same as me, so I'll let you go first just in case.
Ooh, so adding blast processing to anything, I would say that blast processing to. Oh, God, this is a tough question. I'll just go.
It obviously can make whatever you want more powerful. So
Let's go with the with the Sega Saturn. let's make the Sega Saturn more powerful. Let's speed it up a bit, give it a bit more of that Sega Mega Drive magic.
like an extra processor with blast processing.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. What about you, James?
I would give blast processing to Sega themselves to reignite them and send them flying into the fight against Xbox, PlayStation, and reignite it with Nintendo. Give them unlimited budget. Let them unleash that crazy, manic, zany, influence that they've got, and let them get back to their creative best. Give us another Sega console. So blast process the hell out of Sega themselves. Put a core right in the heart of Sega HQ and reignite it, and let's go. That's what I'm saying. Sega themselves.
they would need that if they wanted to do that. If they wanted to go head to head with the current manufacturers, hardware
Can you
manufacturers.
imagine a Sega Game Pass? Oh man, it would be so good.
Oh yeah, that would be nice. Okay, those are good answers. So blast processing everything. That's what we want to do on this show. We want to blast process everything. Okay, guys. So thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a blast talking to you, learning more about your podcast and your own histories with Sega. Please keep up the good work. It's been great listening to the show. And for everyone listening, don't forget to check the show notes for links for the podcast, for the Twitter account and whatnot. So definitely. And hopefully you can come back soon to talk about other Sega stuff.
I would love to.
Maybe we need to arrange that.
Love to.
And maybe another challenge, maybe a little bit harder this time.
A real challenge next time.
Oh,
A real challenge.
The gloves are off.
Those are fighting
Getting
words.
cocky now. I learned nothing from the Sega Rally 2 debacle.
No more Sonic 2 or Sega Rally for you guys. Never again. That's it for this week's show, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, check the links in the description for info on the amazing The Sega Guys RetroPod. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to the Sega Lounge on your favorite podcast service. Stay tuned, as future episodes of the show will feature yet another podcast, a Mega Drive game, and much more. And since it's a regular thing I've been doing for a few weeks now, check out my personal Twitch channel at twitch.tv/KC_RadioMan. I plan to not only stream a variety of games, but also to have somewhat regular lounge follow-up streams with the occasional special guest and some surprises. If that's something that tickles your fancy, head on over to twitch.tv/KC_RadioMan and follow the channel. Again, a big thank you to all you lovely listeners out there. And that reminds me, we should do another rundown of countries where people are listening to the podcast. Maybe next time. For now, stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye! The Sega Lounge, hosted by me, KC, and part of Radio Sega's network of live shows and podcasts. Theme song and incidental music by OSC. Find them at opussciencecollective.bandcamp.com. Got any suggestions? Drop me an email to podcast@thesegalounge.com. Follow us on Twitter @thesegalounge and like us at facebook.com/thesegalounge. You can find previous episodes of the show by going to thesegalounge.com and wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.